Then Fitna displays and recites Surah 8, statement 60 of the Quran. That's 860 of the Quran, or the Blessed Great Wise Protected Quran 860. In response, it is nothing new. The Blessed Great Wise Protected Quran most of the time is misinterpreted, misquoted, or quoted out of context, and especially by the ignorant and the enemies of Islam, the religion of Abraham. To misquote or quote the Great Quran out of context is a modern time evil disease, and it seems that Wilders and company are not any exception. So they have contracted that evil disease and trying to infect others through fitna. Concerning the context of fighting against the enemies in the Great Quran states in Surah 2, Ayah 190 that the children of Abraham, the believing Muslims, are commanded by Allah as follows: and fight for the cause of Allah those who fight you, but transgress not. Indeed, Allah loves not those who transgress. See the Great Quran, Surah 2, Ayah 190. There's a footnote here, but Surah 22, Ayah 78 says, O believing Muslims, and strive in Allah's cause, the way of your father Abraham. Does Wilders want the true children of Abraham, the Muslims, to transgress, act like the Nazis by initiating preemptive strikes and wars? If yes, then the true children of Abraham must keep listening and obeying Allah as in the Great Quran, and must not listen to the sons of the devil through Wilders or others. Allah also says in the Quran, and fight those who fight you, wherever you find them, and force them out from wherever they force you out from. And the fitna, the oppression, the persecution, the torture is worse than murder. Thus must be the punishment of the disbelievers who fight you. But if they cease fighting you, then Allah is the forgiving, the merciful. And fight the disbelievers who fight you until there is no fitna, until there is no oppression, no persecution, no torture, and the entire rule becomes according to the divine compiled laws of the Quran. Therefore, if the disbelievers cease fighting you, then there should be no fighting except against those who are wrongful. See the Great Quran, Surah 2, Ayah 192 through 193. The Old Testament demonstrates to us that the Prophet Abraham did fight oppression, slavery, and tyranny as follows. Allah says in the Bible, and when the Prophet Abraham heard that the transgressors took his nephew, Prophet Lot, captive, and the children, and the women, and the men were also taken captives, Abraham led forth his trained men, born in his house, 318, and pursued as far as Dan, and Abraham divided himself against them, against the disbelievers, by night, he and his servants, and smote the transgressors, smote the aggressors, the attackers, and pursued them into Hobah, which is on the left hand of Damascus. And Abraham brought back all the goods, and also brought back his nephew Lot, and brought back his goods, and the children, and the women, and the men. Prophet Abraham freed those captives. See the book of Genesis chapter 14, verse 14 through 16. As stated above, Abraham is the excellent role model that the people must follow, because we ought to be ready to rescue those in distress, especially relations, friends, and the children, and the women, and the weak of men. Although others may have been wanting in their duty to us, yet we must not neglect our duty to them. Abraham rescued all the captives. As we have opportunity, we must do good to all, as our excellent role model Abraham did. Allah is asking us in the Blessed Great Wise Protected Quran, is asking and wondering concerning those who does not follow the way of the life of the role model Prophet Abraham as follows. Allah states, and who shuns the way of Abraham except him who certified himself? Truly we have chosen Abraham in this life, and indeed in the hereafter Abraham is among the righteous. See the Great Quran, Surah 2, Ayah 130. Allah also says in the Quran, for when his For when Abraham's Lord said to Abraham, submit, Abraham said, I submit to the Lord of the worlds. I also submit to the Lord of the worlds. See the Great Quran, Surah 2, Ayah 131. Also see the book of Genesis, chapter 17, verse 1. Therefore, all the people must submit to the Lord as Abraham did. The wars between or among countries, such as the world wars, are very much devastating on all sides, and the destruction is reflected on all the aspects of the Muslims' lives and on the disbelievers. Therefore, and as mercy from Allah in preventing wars and its devastations and destructions on all sides, Allah commands the Muslims to be strong, very well trained, and equipped in order not to be an easy prey for transgression by their known and unknown enemies. By the unknown enemies who are out of hate and envy are fishing in the murky waters for any opportunity to attack, occupy, and devour the Muslims and their countries, according to chapter 20, articles 10 through 11 of the book of Deuteronomy of the Holy Bible. The only one who could abrogate the divine command of the self-defense of the children of Abraham is the one who could raise the sun from the west. Yes, the one who could raise the sun from the west, W-E-S-T. The principles of 860 of the Great Quran is a must for any sovereign nation of the children of Abraham, the believer Muslim. That the believer Muslim sovereign nation must be strong, prepared, well armed, on high alert, and ready as a deterrence to defend itself against their enemies. When the Muslims are strong, prepared, well equipped, and able to defend themselves against their enemies are going to think twice or thrice before transgressing against them. I mean, the known and the unknown enemies of the Muslims must be scared of thinking to attack, to transgress, or to transgress against the believer Muslim nation. I do not see anything wrong with that, do you? When a nation is strong, who dares to transgress against it and or against its people? Does any nation, even in its dream, think to attack the USA or China or Russia? I don't know if the Netherlands or the European Constitution states that they must be weak and not prepared to defend themselves against their enemies. If it does, and Warders has a problem with that, then he should go through the legal channels to adapt the Quranic principle of 860 of the Quran and amend the Netherlands or the European constitutions accordingly. And that could be by amending or rewriting his fitna accordingly. I know that the USA government adopts the principle of 860 of the Great Quran, that it calls for the USA to be not only powerful but super powerful to scare its enemies. However, the latest policy of the Bush administration goes in a further step that the USA could strike preemptively, such transgressions, wars, destroy and occupy what the USA alleges to be its enemies, even when its allegations are based on lies and frauds. The illegal transgression, the illegal war, and occupation of Iraq, the birthplace of the Prophet Abraham, is a living example of the preemptive strike policy of the Bush administration. Accordingly, if the Bush administration is with or without any intelligence of a nation is dreaming of attacking the USA, such country is going to be preemptively stricken by the USA and put under chapter 20 articles of verses 10